Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. Today I want to talk about this big influx of new wave finesse products that we're seeing. What I mean by that is we're seeing a lot of new baits, a lot of new terminal items that are improving some existing finesse techniques that we have. So your Ned rig, your Wacky rig, your Dropshot, your Flukes, those are all some of the most proven finesse techniques that we know. But what we're seeing in the last couple of years, I mean, really in the last year, is a very good advancement of all of these techniques from a terminal tackle item as well as a bait approach. So I want to kind of address that a little bit and just kind of get your opinions on it. I think some of it could potentially be fads, but I think a lot of it is just really us developing each of these techniques. When I look at them all, they all kind of came out with the idea that there was a specific bait that you had to use with a specific hook. That's not really the case anymore. So just to kind of walk you through, I'm going to go through all four of those primary finesse techniques. So your Ned rig, Wacky rig, drop shot, and your fluke. That's kind of what I consider necessity finesse approaches. But I want to show you how we're seeing some of this advancement. And to me, it's really cool. As a tackle junkie, this excites me and I kind of really get going on this stuff. But at the same time, I kind of question how necessary is it? Like, do we really need to advance them all, or was it the original way, like the best way? I personally feel like it's a little bit of both. I think some products that are coming out may not necessarily be the best, but I think in some cases, some of the new products coming out are better than what the originals were. So to give you a little bit of background on like what I'm talking about here, let's talk about the Wacky Rig, guys. So the Wacky Rig is basically you take a soft stick bait like this Berkeley Max Scent the General, put it on a Wacky Rig hook, you throw it out there and let it flop around like that. I definitely think this is an absolute fish catching machine. But what we're starting to see now is some advancement on it. I've done a video recently about how I like to throw some really small Wacky rigs, if I can even hold it. So in this case, what we're seeing is really an advancement of worms, where this is a Duo Realis wriggle crawler. They come in a whole bunch of different sizes, but then at the same time, we've got a shot Wacky hook. This is just the little inchy hook. So it's got a weight that connects to the bait itself. And what you'll find by doing this is you actually get more movement out of the worm on the fall. By having the weight touch the worm, it acts as its one unit and therefore falls together. If you threw a weight on the head of the bait or in front of the hook, it tends to drag it down and your worm collapses. You don't get the same Wacky Rig movement. So there's some definite advancement that we're starting to see in the Wacky Rig. At the same time, we are starting to see some different style baits that are going to be used as well. I think a lot of people have always said that the Wacky Rig was meant for a soft stick bait, but now we're starting to see people develop creature style baits for it. We're starting to see much smaller style of baits for it. It's pretty cool in my opinion. I think the Wacky Rig with a soft stick bait will always have a place. I think it is one of the, probably out of those four finesse catching tools, in my opinion, it's the best. But I do think we're starting to see some advancement in that now. Another one, guys, the Fluke. The Fluke's always been a mainstay for a lot of people. It's basically you just take your, whatever hook you like to use, whether it's a worm hook or an EWG, put the Fluke on there, let it fall weightless, soft twitches. That's kind of what it is. But if you guys are watching the baits that are coming out in today's world, we're seeing a huge influx of soft, straight-tailed jerk baits, right? So, I mean, it's not any longer just the Fluke style bait. We're seeing the Kitech Shad Impacts. We're seeing the Rhythm Wag by Jackal. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different style baits. I mean, the Hog Farmer Spunk Shad, they all fall into the category of the Fluke. And even though the Fluke is a phenomenal fish catching tool, what we're finding is that you can get a lot of cool action from the same style profile bait, but you really get a lot of different movement. At the same time, we're seeing an advancement in hooks. So you no longer just have to have your worm hook. In this case, I've got this Shad Impact on a core tackle hover rig. So I'm adding a little bit of weight, but it's also imparting a lot of action just on the fall. The Fluke, when it falls, you know, has a tendency to do a spiral or a little bit of gliding motion, but by adding a little weight, internal movement, now I get better darting motion, I get a faster fall. There's a lot of various things, but what we're seeing is an advancement of the Fluke. So that's another one. Let's talk about the Ned Rig. The Ned Rig, when it first came out, was simply, you know, a jig head, basically a half moon shaped jig head with your Ned Rig, which was a cut down, shortened, soft stick bait. Well, what we're starting to see now is a lot of different types of bait made for this. We're seeing a lot of different cross style baits that are coming out. We're seeing even your straight worms really getting changed. This is the Flip Dom by Nori's right here. I mean, it's kind of a bug turd shaped looking thing. It's definitely a lot different than your old, you know, this is just the little general, your traditional Ned Rig style bait. And we're seeing that this can impart gliding action because it's wide and flat. You're seeing just different falls coming out of some of these different ones that people are using. And at the same time, at this point now, there are a pile of different types of heads to use. You know, there's everything from this kind of traditional, you know, the half moon shape, I guess, to things that are all the way more of your football heads, like just a lot of different shapes that you can apply. And it's really coming because the technique is developing and people are developing hooks made specifically for Ned rigs in the areas that they like to fish them. At the same time, you can buy them now as well, you know, from like made to be weedless. So it's basically like an EWG hook in the head, so you can Texas rig it to work it through, say, a brush pile or get it through cover. And then same thing goes with a drop shot. You know, a traditional drop shot has always been just something like, you know, your robo worm. But from a bait standpoint, and does this still work? Absolutely it does. But, you know, what we're starting to see is a lot of different style baits. This is just a micro two-way by Raid, you know, that you can rig in a couple of different ways on a drop shot. Just a lot of different style baits that people are applying on the drop shot. Same thing goes for the hook. You know, the Nishine has a drop shot hook now where you snell the knot on or you snell knot the Nishine drop shot hook onto the line versus taking a drop shot hook and running the tag end through it. You know, it's just one of those things we're seeing a lot of like technique development, which I personally think is very cool. I think it's a really what it's doing is it's showing how good each of these finesse tactics are and how good, you know, they're going to continue to be because people are trying to make them better. But it is pretty cool to see the advancement. I mean, in most of these cases, I feel like this product development has happened over the last couple of years. You know, for a while, your Wacky Rig, your Drop Shot, your Ned Rig, and your Fluke were around for like 20 years without any sort of development or advancement, anything major. But in the last year or two, it's been pretty crazy to see both from a terminal tackle standpoint and a bait standpoint, how the development's happening. So it's from a tackle junkie standpoint, it's pretty cool. From my wallet standpoint, it's not real happy with me. But at the same time, I think it is one of the cool things about fishing. So I'd love to know from you guys, what are some of the new cool advancements with certain finesse techniques that you are really enjoying as well, so that other people out there can learn from you. Otherwise, guys, if you enjoyed today's video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Stay tuned, new video coming out tomorrow.